Mirë se keni ardhur në Rama. Unë jam shumë I gëzuar sot që bëjmë këtë hapje të parë publike të një projekti që kena fillu këtë ditë për herë parë në Art House, që është eksperienca që na kena quajtur Art House School. Ku ideja nuk është më ndërtu një shkollë ku dikush din edhe mëson atine që nuk din. Dhe mandej ja kontrollon dijen, si shnoll zakonisht në sistemin shkollor akademik, por me kriju një situatë ku një grup njerëzish ndajnë kohën, eksperiencën, dijet, leximet, kuriozitetet, pyetjet, dyshimet e tyre. Dhe kemi menuar me pa bashkë një grup prej mund vini edhe këtu ka vende këtu parë. Kena menuar me pa bashkë një grup prej 10 artistësh 3 shqiptar që janë aktiv në skenën e artit në Shqipëni, po jo vetëm në Shqipëni, shumë prej tyre kanë studiuar ose studiojnë, se kanë bërë eksperienca ndryshme edhe jashtë Shqipënisë. Por është hera e parë që marrë të mbjellin bashkë në një eksperiencë të kësaj natyre. Dhe në kuadrin e kësaj eksperiencë të Art House School, ku si thash më përpara dijet nuk si tu zhvin nga net poshtë, po qarkullojnë në mënyrë rrethore dhe horizontale mes pjesëmarrësve të kësaj eksperiencë, do të kemi disa të ftuar, disa artistë, disa kuratorë, disa njerëz që merren me artin në forma të ndryshme. E unë jam në vërtet shumë I gëzuar sot që I pari mysafir, I pari ftuar I kësaj eksperiencë është Adam Budak, është një mik Joni, mik I emi, me cilin unë jam njoft diku nga 2009 dhe kam pas disa eksperiencë bashkëpunimi. So Adam, welcome. It's really a pleasure for us to have you here. I was just explaining a bit the frame of your presence here, which is this Art House School. And as I was saying, we know each other since 2009, and we started collaborating around 2010, and we did several shows together. And it has been really a pleasure for me to collaborate with Adam and to experience this the deep passion, but at the same time the deep knowledge and his way of looking at art, his way of talking about art. And so now you are here with us, and we are very happy, and I am curious too to listen to what you are presenting. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Adrian. I'm extremely grateful for this invitation. This is my first time to Albania. I always wanted to come. There had never been any possibility to do so. However, as Adrian mentioned, we've been working together from around 2008, even earlier than 10. And we've done a number of shows that, for me at least, are extremely important. So I'm very happy and thankful to Adrian that he agreed to participate in shows that were important, and I think they, I hope you agree, they correspond very well with what your work is about, what your message is about, what your sensitivity is about. One of those shows was about rituals of homecoming. Another one was about human condition. And those shows dealt with what the mankind of humanity is going through at this moment. And I think this topicality of Adrian's work is extremely important, and he's able to articulate the human fate in a very poetic way. This is the language which is very close to me. Therefore, during tonight's lecture, there will be a lot of poetry, I would like to offer in a way a sort of poetry reading, if you don't mind, with this particular poet Rainer Maria Rilke in the background. I'm grateful for this invitation, and the gratitude and generosity are two words that I would like to address towards Adrian, of course, everybody else here, and Thea, who organized my trip to Škoda. And I would like to salute and praise Adrian for this incredible initiative, the Art House, which animates artistic life in this country, in this region, and makes visits like mine possible, which is beautiful. So thank you so much. With this lecture, which is a sort of improvisation, I would like to fantasize a little bit about what an institution, art institution is or could be. And I would like to kind of jump in between a very abstract, general narratives, having in the background this particular institution, which is called the National Gallery in Prague, whose artistic directorship I took over only 3 years ago. And this is a very fresh task for me still, and very challenging, and the task that I am rethinking over and over. And this occasion, this lecture, is one of those kind of attempts to redefine how to think about institutions, what is the role of institution at this moment, and especially what kind of institution the national institution is. What is its mission, challenge, role, task, and what are the expectations of both artists that collaborate with this institution and the audience, of course, that is looking forward to the programming that the institution is offering. I was, in a way, I entered the National Gallery at the moment when we were preparing the celebration of 220th anniversary. The National Gallery in Prague, I don't know if you've been there, is one of the oldest museums in Europe, established only 40 years after the British Museum, and I will, in the meantime, provide you with some information about this institution. But let's start from this first poetry reading, because we opened the book. And the book is the one that celebrated the anniversary. It's called Generosity, the Art of Giving. And the book had been, this is a companion to an exhibition, it's a companion to a celebration. And the book has been perceived the way the rose opens and closes. And this dynamics of inwardness and openness had been very much inspired by this particular poem by Rainer Maria Rilke called The Inner Rose. Rainer Maria Rilke was born 1875 in Prague, German Bohemian poet, studied in Prague, and in 1907 wrote two beautiful poems that appeared in a collection called New Poems. One of them is The Inner Rose. We're going to get to the second one, which is called The Bowl of Roses, a little bit later. And the new translator of Rainer Maria Rilke, Adrian Paci, translated one line the following way: Sot pushom spengushem embite hapunat drandofil. I think it's pure poetry of Adrian. So, if I may move to the first one. And please allow me to read it. You see it in front, but I think this poetry is so over beautiful. Each word, each phrasing is so charged with meaning, with sensitivity, that I think it's worth to spend some time on reading it aloud. Where is therefore this inner and outer? Upon which heart does one lay such fine linen? And which heavens are reflected within them, upon the interior seas of these open roses? these carefree ones. See, how loose in looseness they lie, as if a trembling hand could never tip them over. They can hardly hold themselves erect. Men allow themselves be filled all too full and flow over from inner space into the days, which, ever more and more full, close in upon themselves until the entire summer becomes a chamber in a dream. So let's imagine that this institution we are subject and object of is this imaginary, a chamber in a dream, is this phantasmagoria. So we're going to be talking about how to curate, or what are the challenges of curating in the National Gallery, while we are searching for the narrative that is all-encompassing, that is polyphonic, that uses many voices, that uses many languages, that is like this door that Rilke suggested in the poem The Inner Rose, which is about in and out, so passage, the open door, generosity, hospitality. And this was all those times around early 19th century. The gallery was established on February 5th, 1796. And it was a gathering like this one. Maybe the set of people was a little bit different. But some guys, intellectuals, rich people, aristocracy, sat at the table and looked at what's going on around. And they said, like, look, she is not really too sensitive towards art. You know, we have to change it. Why is this so? So they realized that until the end of 18th century, the art was too elitist. The art was not accessible to the general audience, to the public. So generating this access was the main task. And it was as simple as this. One guy said, listen, I have a private collection at home. And another one says, and I have a palazzo, which is empty. Why don't we hook up? And they did the joint venture. They called themselves Society of the Patriotic Friends of the Arts. They loved the country, and they loved arts. So patriotism and the passion for art were very much at the foundation of what now it's called National Gallery of Arts. And they created a situation like this. Yeah? You see, artworks in a beautiful historical setting with flowers around, needless to say, roses, and beautiful draperies and beautiful settings. Some noble people who contributed to what was called picture gallery, obrazowarnia in Czech. But then they said, look, now everybody can see those paintings, but they still don't know what those paintings are about, yes? We still have to do something with it, so we have to educate those people. And indeed, it took them only 4 years to establish Academy of Fine Arts, the same group in a way, in 1800, established an academy where people could also learn and study art. So then the mission was in a way completed. Few historical images, you see how the interiors were changing, and the gallery was growing. And the gallery was growing because of generosity of others, since the very first collection, which is now called Collection of All Masters, was entirely based upon gifts or loans or deposits, something like that. So there were no acquisitions involved. And then there were various gestures from not only individuals but also associations, foundations that contributed to the establishment of 4 other collections, that is prints and drawings, Asian and African art, and last but not least, modern and contemporary.
They look like they're rich people. Were they rich?
They were many, of course, there were many rich people, but those rich people were not, as we say and see, rich for themselves. They were set up on sharing. So that's why I decided to celebrate this anniversary with the project on generosity, to pay tribute to them, yeah, homage. And this book includes the portraits of those people and honors them. And through this focus on this topic, I would like to, in a way, reload this culture of giving and to kind of consider generosity as a program that could function for now and for the future. And I could, in a way, like to copy this, what was so substantial at the very beginning of the history. Being in love could seem so simple and come so smoothly. We always feared that this day would come, the day you realize you don't need us as much as we need you. You did a lot for us, making sure we didn't want for anything, making sure we weren't taken care of. Never take the love of your life for granted. It will make you miserable. We love you with all our heart. Hopefully one day you will give us the chance to prove we can be the museum you deserve. And you see, this narrative turned out to be extremely influential for many artists and for my colleagues, curators working at the gallery. This, what I read, is a text that was sent to us by Liam Gillick, conceptual artist, British conceptual artist, you might be aware of, who had been in a very generous way working with me for the first 2 years on what I call moving image department. So Liam Gillick was sending for each chapter of Moving Image Department, in which Adrian Paci participated as well last year, a text, as if a message, how to behave, how to act, how to react. And you see, this is the collection of, there were 6 altogether. As if a kind of artist was an observer, artist was someone who is looking upon. The funny thing is, Liam had not visited us. He didn't see the gallery, or he didn't know what our struggle at the beginning of transformation, of the museum's transformation was. But his texts were always very apt, very kind of accurate in depicting what our problem is in an institution such as the National Gallery, which is state-run, which has a bureaucratic apparatus, which suffers with the funding, which is exposed to many different expectations from the audience as the leading institution in the country, and so on and so forth. So I started to gather texts, different narratives, different parts of discourses that would help me and us, with a team of curators I'm responsible for, to understand what our task is, to understand what is this place where we work with, how to overcome those obstacles, and how to deal with the problems, and in a successful way to move on. So I decided to, in a way, sneak in with, on the one hand, the notion of the failure. And there is a fantastic anthology of texts put together by Ewa Plonowska-Ziarek on the construction of skepticism. And this is a little bit kind of alluding to the national Czech mentality, which is very much fatalistic, pessimistic, and skeptical. So here we have the rhetoric of failure, and this is maybe not really a coincidence that on the cover of this book there is a drawing of Kafka. And the Kafka, the essay on Kafka is one of the leading essays in this volume. And then the second book, which might be even more interesting and inspiring, is called After the Future. You certainly know this as he's being called one of the most leftist philosophers alive, Franco Bifo Berardi, who wrote the book called After the Future to celebrate 100 years of Futurismo Manifesto. And he says that future failed us. And we are responsible for what comes next. And I found this statement, which is one sentence kind of summary of Franco Bifo Berardi's book, extremely important and inspiring in actually thinking about institutions, because I think the institutions failed us. And it's our responsibility for what comes next. Therefore, this is the sort of mobilization to really think hard how to deal with the institutional practice in order to make artist work pleasurable and curatorial practice feasible and bring the satisfaction and meet expectations of the audience, artists, curators, and the audience. By the way, Franco Bifo is one of the maybe most inspiring philosophers alive today, and very influential for what's happening within the institutional and artistic world. Maybe you know that he was supposed to have a performance in Kassel, in Documenta, 2 days ago, and this performance was cancelled because of a public outrage. It was supposed to be called Auschwitz and the Beach. One of the earlier works of Franco Bifo Berardi is called Poetry and Finance, where he says that poetry is the vehicle that is allowing or facilitating a passage from one paradigm to another. And I think it's a very so strong statement and very true in kind of pronouncing the revival of poetry as one of the most important mediums nowadays. Some other narratives that come mainly from the French philosophy, that's Michel Serret with Biogea, again the focus on togetherness and we, and nature and science, anthropological perspective of Philippe Descola, the ecology of others, and Gregory Bateson, steps to the ecology of mind. And all those led last year to 2 books that we managed to, one of others, but 2 major books that we put together to celebrate the anniversary and to mark in a way new moment in the history and practice of the National Gallery. So that's The Generosity, the Art of Giving. And then the second one here, it's called The Third Mind, which is basically about how to live together and how to work together. It is about the practice of collaboration, its possibility and impossibility. And I did this exhibition with one particular artist called Jiří Kovanda. You might know he is a conceptual Czech artist who a performer who to a large extent relies upon the work of others and works with others. So this exhibition, Third Mind, was conceived of works that only those works that were done in collaboration with other artists. So you see on those both wings of the catalog cover the names of artists who contributed to this exhibition, with the leading sort of signature authorial voice of Jiří Kovanda. But again, for this platform, for the togetherness, the work of the French philosopher Jean-Luc Nancy was of an extreme importance, and especially his elaboration of the existence which is always with, otherwise nothing exists. So being singular, plural, as if that's the main message behind the construction of meaning and of being in the philosophy of Jean-Luc Nancy. So let's go down to Bowl of Roses. I remind you, this is also 1907, over 100 years ago. And here there is a longer text, which, you forgive my broken English, I will recite. So, you saw angry ones flare. So 2 boys, I might take my glasses. You saw 2 boys clamp themselves together into something that was pure hate. thrashing into the dirt like an animal set upon by bees. Actors, piled up exaggerators, carrying horses crushed to the ground, their gaze thrown away, baring their teeth as if the skull peeled itself out through the mouth. But now you know how these things are forgotten. For here before you stands a bowl full of roses, which is unforgettable and filled up with ultimate instances of being and bowing down, of offering themselves, of being unable to give, of standing there almost as part of us, ultimates for us too. Noiseless life, opening without end, filling space without taking any away. From the space the other things in it diminish, almost without an outline, like something omitted, and pure inwardness, with so much curious softness, shining into itself, right up to the rim. Is anything as known to us as this? And this, that a feeling arises because petals are being touched by petals? And this, that one opens itself like a lid, and beneath lies nothing but eyelids, all closed, as if tenfold sleep had to dampen down an inner power to see. And above all this, that through the petals light has to pass. Slowly they filter out from 1,000 skies the drop of darkness in whose fiery glow the jumbled bundle of stamens becomes aroused and rears up. And what activity, look, in the roses. Gestures with angles of deflection so small one wouldn't see them if not for infinite space where their rays can diverge. See this white one, blissfully opened, standing among its huge spreading petals, like a Venus standing in her shell. And how this one, the blushing one, turns as if confused toward the cooler one, and how the cooler one, impassive, draws back, and the cold one stands tightly wrapped in itself among those opened ones that shed everything. And what they shed, how it can be at once light and heavy, a cloak, a burden, a wing, and a mask, it all depends. And how they shed it, as before a lover. That's the conclusion now. Is there anything they can't be? Wasn't this yellow one that lies here hollow and open the reed of a fruit of which the same yellow, more intense, more orange red, was the juice? And this one, could opening have been too much for it because, exposed to air, its nameless pink has picked up the bitter aftertaste of lilac? And isn't this batiste one a dress with the chemise still inside it, still soft and breath warm, bow flung off together in morning shade at the bathing pool in the woods? And this one here, opalescent porcelain, fragile, a shallow china cup filled with little lighted butterflies. And this one, containing nothing but itself. And aren't they all doing the same, only containing themselves? If to contain oneself means to transform the world outside, and wind and rain and patience of spring and guilt and restlessness and disguised fate and darkness of earth at evening, all the way to the errancy, flight and coming on of clouds, all the way to the vague influence of the distant stars into the handful of inwardness. Now it lies free of cares in the open roses. I think it's embarrassingly beautiful. So I want to repeat, now it lies free of caress in the open roses. But I think those last sentences about the one containing nothing but itself, and all of them are doing the same, only containing themselves. Thus, they transform the world outside and everything else. And I think this, articulated in 1907, is of particular power, and it resonates until today, and it reflects the need, the urgency, the presence of collectiveness, togetherness, composing the roses in a bowl that communicate one with another, passing one through another, in and out, in a harmony. So here there are those examples of the buildings that constitute the National Gallery, as if they were all those kind of unique elements that create a common identity. Schwarzenberg Palace, Salm Palace, the views, all of them on Hradčan Square, right next to the entrance to the castle. So we have a little sightseeing now through Prague, through the golden city of Prague. Okay. So you see the castle with the cathedral. You see a beautiful Sternberg Palace garden. You see the cloister of St. Agnes of Bohemia, where our medieval art collection is on view. And you see here the Rococo Palace called Kinsky Palace, where our Asian art collection is on view. And this is also the building which earlier served as a gymnasium where Kafka used to went to school. And last but not least, this is the modernist building, which was built in 1929 as a trade fair palace, as a Messepalaz for the furs. And in 1995, it was turned into the gallery, and it hosts a modern contemporary collection. It's a rectangular Guggenheim, as a kind of ocean liner that parked in the former industrial part of Prague, with big open spaces like this one here, and the minimalist, or how is it called, functionalist architecture style. So, and this is the platform and this stage for the politics of generosity, which, as Rosalind de Prose, who is an Australian sociologist, says that the politics of generosity begins with all of us. It begins and remains in trouble, and it begins within the act. And I will show you now a few installation shots of the exhibition that was multi-layered. It took place within a particular exhibition space, but at the same time it consisted of interventions within the collection spaces, and last but not least, it appropriated the works from the permanent exhibition of the collection and integrated within one narrative. This work I'm showing you here is of a particular importance because it was actually given to us at the occasion of this exhibition. And this is Joseph Kosu, the work from 1997, called "What You Are Regarding as a Gift is a Problem for You to Solve." So yet another, in a way, definition of generosity, or what is the main subject of generosity, or the object, which is the gift itself. One of the more important references for this book and for the exhibition was the work of Edmund de Waal. You may know this British writer, but also potter. He wrote a very interesting book, which is called "The Hair of the Amber Eyes," which recites the history of 256 netsuke. These are small wooden or stone Japanese sculptures from 18th century. And this collection is a private collection that belonged to the family of Edmund de Waal. It traveled through different countries, geographies, different hands. The book is basically history of touch. It narrates the intimacy of an art object, the art object that you keep in your hand, that you put into your pocket and you live with it. And we were very honored to have this exclusive permission to present 68 of those original Netsuke from Edmund de Waal private collection. This is the very famous hero of Edmund de Waal book, The Hero of the Amber Eyes. If you don't know it, please read it, because it's one of the most important books on understanding what is an artwork and how to deal with it. And a few more shots. In front, it's the work by Willem de Rooij. Willem de Rooij is a Dutch conceptual artist who for over 20 years now is composing the bouquets of flowers as an artwork. So the bouquet, the composition of the flowers in the vase has a very strong significance, and it very often refers to the political context or to the social aspects, very much comment upon the topic of the exhibition. And here, as he was invited to the exhibition Generosity, he composed the bouquet only of white flowers. What was interesting here was that what is interesting in this work is that it is exposed to decay. We are obliged to exchange those flowers every now and then, but you cannot control lives of different flowers within one bouquet, because the longevity of roses is shorter than daffodils or others. So there is a kind of aspect of death implemented within this project. And it coincided in a beautiful way with the work here, which is the letter, which is the work by Dan Vu, a Danish-Vietnamese artist who bought a letter from 18th century missionary who sent a farewell letter to his father 2 days before he was beheaded for some unknown crimes in Vietnam. And this farewell letter is extremely beautiful and poetic, and it refers to all of us being flowers. And some of us are being taken from the earth sooner, some of us are staying longer. It's all someone else's decision. So some interventions of contemporary art, such as here you see Pavel Büchler in a way talking or narrating the story of old masters painting. They sort of ran through this exhibition as if sort of ghosts that commented the artworks, as if those sort of phantom characters that kind of raise our awareness of the narratives that are being presented in the exhibition spaces. This intervention of the works that came from, in a way, another time frame, they functioned a little bit like the White Rabbit that you might know from the film of Pierre Hugues called The Host and the Cloud. And I would like to show you a fragment of this film, or maybe a longer part. We can also play it after the lecture, because the work by Pierre Hugues from 2010 called The Host and the Cloud, which is 2 hours long, is an extremely important phantasmagoria about what art institution or the museum can be. This film teaches you how to look at the art institution in an abstract way, in a very kind of non-practical way, to understand the meaning of a museum as a place of discovery, as a place of pleasure, as a place of identities. The Host and the Cloud was taken on 3 particular days. This is the 1st of May, the Labor Day, the day of the revolution in a way, the way of the day of the protest, the way of manifesting something. It was also taken on the day of the Valentine's, which is about being together and sharing. And it was also taken on the Halloween day, which is the day when we change our identities. It's a masquerade, when we pretend to be someone else, when we play out different identities, and we enjoy it. So those 3 days for Pierre Hugues act as if sort of frameworks to understand what the museum can be. And it's important, of course, to understand that the place of action for the host in the cloud is a disused former museum of arts and folk traditions in Paris, which was then closed for renovation, but Pierre Hugues got a permission to use it for those 3 days as a platform for his work. So, within those 2 hours of the narrative of the film, Pierre Hugues, whose practice is very much interested in investigating the borderline between human and non-human, of course injects an animated rabbit into into the spaces, into the characters. The rabbit that is walking around, that is almost this rabbit in the Alice in the Wonderland that goes down the rabbit hole and opens up or guides you through the world of curiosity. And we can say that Alice, as guided by the White Rabbit. By the way, this book is called The White Rabbit, the companion to the exhibition Generosity, the Art of Giving. That the Alice was in a way a prototype of the museum visitor, in fact. So more installation shots from this exhibition. The exhibition, as I said, was composed mainly of the major gifts that during those 220 years of the history of the National Gallery were accumulated and constitute our collections. And here we are at the end of this exhibition. We were screening the work of Pierre Hugues, The Host and the Cloud, and you see this strange character, almost like in the Brecht theater, telling you that something is going on here, that kind of animating your critical apparatus in this process of identities transformation, the masquerade, and the nature, last but not least, taking over the museum and turning it into pure nature itself. And this is one of the concluding scenes when the whole reality becomes artificial. What you see here is not the real nature, it's a maquette. And what you see is not a real rabbit, it's an animation. And what he says at the end is, I save you, I save them. He enters, masqueraded himself into this little hat, and he disappears. I think I would like to stop at this moment and play maybe a little bit of Pierre Hugues, maybe 10-15 minutes, yeah? Doesn't sound.
It's strange.
Oh no, it's but very low. Sorry. No, it's Yes.
Nous ne voulons pas de vos avocats.
Je ne vous ai pas donné la parole, et vous avez le libre choix des avocats. Les avocats commis d'office sont récusés. Maître Ripper assurera votre défense. La cour d'assises est réunie en formation spéciale.
On vient de me transmettre une communication de M. Georges Cipriani. Je refuse de comparaître aujourd'hui pour des raisons qui m'appartiennent exclusivement. Je n'ai devant cette cour ni l'espace ni la possibilité de m'exprimer. Je récuse l'ensemble de mes avocats et je refuse qu'ils me défendent. Georges Cipriani. J'ai également entre les mains une déclaration du groupe Action Directe auquel appartiennent les clients qui explicite cette décision.
Faites.
Nous sommes ici parce que nous revendiquons pleinement, en tant que sujet collectif consciemment organisé en guerre, l'application politique et pratique de votre réflexion. Et nous ne sommes nullement citoyens de votre système. Nous sommes citoyens d'une civilisation en devenir, ne relevant ni de vos valeurs, ni de votre droit à exploiter et à opprimer, et donc de la justice qui vous réserve. Ce procès est votre fait, votre condition est vous concerne.
Je déclare les débats ouverts.
Les accusés, M. Jean-Marc Rouillant, Mlle Nathalie Ménigon, Mlle Joëlle Aubron et M. Georges Cipriani, déclarent appartenir au groupe Action Directe. Je rappelle que le groupe Action Directe est un groupe révolutionnaire qui prône la lutte armée et dont les membres organisés en commando se sont livrés à des attentats contre des personnes et des biens. Le président de la République a prononcé l'interdiction et la dissolution du groupe Action Directe par décret du 24 août 1982.
Accusé Jean-Marc Rouillant, avez-vous quelque chose à répondre aux accusations qui vous sont faites collectivement?
Je n'ai rien à répondre.
Mademoiselle Ménigon.
C'est une revendication collective. Je reconnais mon appartenance à Action Directe.
Mademoiselle Aubron. Souhaitez-vous participer?
Je n'ai pas l'intention de participer, mais j'aimerais lire une déclaration. Il est de notoriété publique que terroristes, nous n'agissons que par amour de la destruction, du négativisme. Une passion du mal donc obscure aux honnêtes gens et à leurs nouveaux maîtres à pensée médiatique. Le pouvoir pensait que notre intérêt à voir cette procédure réglée nous conduirait à l'accepter à n'importe quel prix, suivant n'importe quel scénario. Mais nous n'avons rien à vendre. Nous ne considérons pas notre lutte, notre politique, ses valeurs, telles des marchandises à échanger contre monnaie et avantages matériels. Et nous ne considérons pas non plus nos interventions dans cette salle comme des prestations et des rôles à tenir pour être à la hauteur de la messe produite, aidant à garantir le spectacle que vous cultivez avec délectation, celui-là même de la présente cérémonie, utile pour remonter le mécanisme de la crainte. Votre arrogance à mimer une normalité renvoie à l'arrogance générale d'un système s'autoproclamant le nec plus ultra du développement de l'humanité. De nos jours, tout doit être lisse, diaphane jusqu'à l'extrême, jusqu'à l'irréelle pantomime. Et de destruction des révolutionnaires. Et manipulation oblige pour la préservation de la ronflante machinerie démocratique dont vous vous affublez pour chacun de vos crimes, même le plus discret, alors que tout ce spectacle n'a qu'un but, la médiatisation de la peine d'élimination. Une justice en grand méchant loup.
Je ne vous permets pas.
Inutile de vous exaspérer. L'acte 1, scène 1, les accusés ont la parole, s'achève. Mais tout ce qui peut être dit devant vous nourrit toujours la bête infâme du cérémonial de la catharsis.
L'audience est suspendue.
Dans un régime qui ne respecte que les puissants, les défend jusqu'à la barbarie, nos droits sont ceux de la raison, de la collectivité, du partage, notre appartenance au camp des irréductibles ennemis du capitalisme. Sont nos droits de révolte, d'insoumission, d'émancipation, de prendre la parole, de prendre les armes, de critiquer, de s'organiser, de lutter et de vous combattre jusqu'au bout, partout, sans trêve.
Il est de notoriété publique que terroristes, nous n'agissons toujours que par amour de la destruction, du négativisme. Une passion du mal, donc obscure aux honnêtes gens et à leurs nouveaux maîtres à pensée médiatique. Le pouvoir pensait que notre intérêt évident à voir cette procédure réglée nous conduirait à l'accepter à n'importe quel prix, suivant n'importe quel scénario. Mais nous n'avons rien à vendre. Et nous ne considérons pas non plus nos interventions dans cette salle comme des prestations et des rôles à tenir. Qu'importe en effet ce qui peut bien se passer ici, nos seuls droits à nous défendre de vous, de vos lois, du régime et de ses conformismes, ce sont les droits de la révolte, de l'insoumission, de l'émancipation, ceux de prendre la parole, de prendre les armes, de critiquer, de s'organiser, de lutter, de s'insurger, de vous combattre, partout, sans trêve.
Son Altesse, le Prince héritier, Sa Majesté, l'impératrice,
looking for loved ones, using their hands, digging through rubble. L'humiliation et l'exploitation. L'exploitation, l'humiliation.
Sa Majesté Bokassa Ier,
Nous, Bokassa Ier, jurons et promettons solennellement devant le peuple, devant l'humanité tout entière et devant l'histoire de tout mettre en œuvre pour veiller scrupuleusement à la saine application de la Constitution de l'Empire centrafricain.
Son Altesse, le prince héritier.
Sa Majesté l'impératrice.
Sa Majesté Bokassa Ier, empereur de Centrafrique. Nous, jurons et promettons devant l'humanité tout entière
et devant l'histoire,
et devant l'histoire,
de veiller scrupuleusement
à la saine application
de
la Constitution,
discussion, and then we can continue the film for those who have time and interest and right?
Yeah.
Do you mind? So I'm very happy that we managed to watch together nearly an hour, so less than half of this film, which I so much wanted to share with you because, as it was described, it's a journey through a mind of an absent subject. But you grasped already from this first part the concept for this film as the platform to present multiple identities and the masquerade kind of format behind such a place as a museum. I emphasize that this is all taking place in the museum, in the museum that actually still includes the all infrastructure that belongs to the museum. So far on you will see some artworks within the exhibition spaces. You will see characters walking through storage areas and all those semi-public spaces like reception in the museum. And this narrative becomes more and more dreamlike, oniric, somnambulic, phantasmagoric. Yeah.
The movie doesn't have a subject, right?
It doesn't have a...
It was a moment like it seemed like a leftist propaganda, I don't know.
It was part of the fiction, I think.
Yeah.
Because they were like characters again, you know. So I think it's all made of this construction and fictional situations. It's like it's not only the museum, but it's like the society. But then we have this presence of the rabbits.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite interesting, you know, this relation.
Yeah, but I think the suggestion here is that the place like this may operate as a sort of space for rehearsal, you know, that you kind of act or reenact or rehearse or try different situations that in reality are true in reality happening, and this is what is a kind of situation where you can try things and you can rehearse them before you enter the real action.
But Adab, do you see this more in relation with the with the art institution, or you see that the artists use the art institution as a kind of a space, as a metaphor of the world, and of course, brought everything inside in a different level. Through this masqueration and through this fictional aspect, but the dynamics of power. We have the trial there. We have the leftist propaganda. The terrorists. We have also the artists. Somehow I could say, I could identify the artist in this dynamic. And then we have this presence of the animals. They're quite a bit like outsiders somehow here, but giving another element.
I would say that they operate, as I mentioned earlier, like in the Brecht theater, which was a political epic theater, or Brecht was a political theater. It was not a theater that operated with illusion, but the opposite. Brecht applied many aspects that were taking you away from the illusion, that this what you see is not reality, it's fake. So, as you remember, during the performances in the theater of Bertolt Brecht, there was sometimes people walking through the stage and with some slogans, with some descriptions, to what is happening, just telling you that they don't pretend the reality. This was called the Fremdungseffect, the alienation effect. So taking it away from the illusion and kind of making it strange, like alienating it. Huh? One of the typical alienation effects in Brecht was that the male actor was casted in the role of a woman, because then Brecht said, this male actor is going to give you an essence of a woman according to the opposite gender eyes. Huh? That a woman is too much woman, she is a woman, and she will be a woman when she acts a woman. But and this is not as strong as when a man acts as a woman. Huh?
I had a constant feeling of it was a bit tormentous in the sense of as if the characters were unable to stop, to kind of keep themselves from the performance. It wasn't more a space of rehearsal, but as I sensed it, more like the inability to stop performing somehow, to have to be into a cycle that you could not really get outside. And I think there is some there is a kind of tension in, or not maybe tension, but there is a way of going towards these performances that is as if something in there is taking you towards it. It is not wishful in a way. And maybe the animals, I mean, I don't want to read more metaphor than it's not the point, but somehow the animals are not really performing, except, you know, being like being picked or.
Yeah, but then you have this kind of creation of an animal that is a fake animal, it's animation. And this animal is actually the most important. He is the main actor in this, or the main character, protagonist in this narrative here. And this beginning is very important because you see actually the reality through his eyes, and there are maybe 3 minutes black and white with this sort of a bit blurred vision, and you know that you are being guided by him through some corridors right at the beginning. And then he's a kind of witness, he observes, he watches, only at the end he articulates something, as if pronouncing his role of the savior. So like the most enigmatic in a way, the most unreal. They try hard to be not real, to change themselves, to pretend being someone else, to take on all those roles. And this museum here is a platform for a political trial. It is a platform, it is a catwalk, it is a zoo, it is such a kind of multi-identity place where the entire life can be reenacted, in fact. And I don't think there would be any, I mean, maybe this is all too totalizing, yes? But I think the museums, the universal museums, I'm not talking only about visual arts, but the museums where you have scientific departments from archaeology, botany, down to natural history museum and so on. They are those places where you confront what humanity is, that you learn, that you see, that you experience the entire construction of who we are as mankind.
May I ask you something also connected with the question of generosity and institution? Because we start also from the experience of the National Gallery of Prague, that how it started out of a gest of generosity of some rich, but not only rich, but also enlightened people somehow. And they build something, and they build a structure, and they build an institution with all the elements that I mean, is composed. But now the problem when the institution is there, is already built, and it has to work. You know, what can animate the institution? How, I mean, what is the relation between an existing institution with all the bureaucracy, with all the money problem, with all the rules that, you know, and this need to reactivate it all the time, because it's maybe easier to start from the beginning and nothing is there, and maybe you need to touch. Okay.
Then to keep it up.
Then to keep this generosity element when you have something, you know.
You have to touch it. Yeah.
I have to touch it.
But I thought that actually the answer to this is this in this line. So puszczą szpęku sechem bite hapuntat drantofil.
Okay.
That this is the care, you know, that we don't care, and the aim of the generosity program, because, you know, the Ministry of Culture, I hope it's not being recorded, the Ministry of Culture in Czech Republic doesn't care. Like, I saw him maybe the first time at the opening of this exhibition, for which he was late, and he just said one sentence. He said, oh, I love the title of this exhibition, Generosity, the Art of Giving. And I think it's something more than a title. Yeah? It is a program. And it's so simple, but so important and so crucial, and so much what we want this to be. We want this to last. We want this to become a manifesto for what this institution is about and how it belongs to us, yeah? To all of us, to the society. The aim of this project was to reload the culture of giving. And believe it or not, it really works. And I can give you some real examples, because I think that there was also a kind of mentality change with this project, and I hope I don't exaggerate. It opened up people's eyes and minds and hearts also through some examples that were performed in this exhibition, such as Joseph Kossuth's donation. Some artists said, like, oh, Kossuth gave you a work, I want to give you a work as well, you know? So this is one example, follows another, and it's a snowball reaction in a way. But for this, you need this engagement, and you need to perform the care of something, you know? Like you, the flowers, they're gonna bloom, and you're gonna enjoy them if you take care of them. You have to help them. As simple as it is, and if we have this sense of common, yeah, that this is communal, common, that it belongs to us, and there are many in today's society acts of self-empowerment and communal gestures that help some systems that do not function or are kind of poor structures. Yeah? So.
Yeah, I'm also interested about the relation between the love and hate, or, well, let's use the word hate, but maybe this, I mean, how the generosity and the positive feeling can work together with the need for drastic change, for a courageous act, for something you need to break something, you know, not all the time, you know, just to
I think generosity is really crucial, and the second part of this book, as you know, is a kind of short history of generosity from Aristotle down to today. And even the word genere, it's to They are philosopher, I know. It's to generate, to produce, huh? Exactly, to produce, and also genesis, huh? And genius. They all come from this the same root, huh? Etymologically. So at the beginning, in a way, was an act of giving, huh? The life is a gift. Yeah. I guess what we wanted to say with this is that the museum is a gift. That if, of course, then you have the sole ambiguity of a gift, and it was beautifully reflected in Wittgenstein saying that the gift is the problem for you to solve. Yeah, and also, you know, when you read Derrida, this becomes even more complex. Derrida says actually gift is impossible. Yes, because a gift imposes on you this. Nervosity of reciprocity, and that there is no gift, but when I give you something, I can actually expect something that's being given back to me from you. Huh? That there's no ideal gift, or there's no ideal attached to a gift as a gift. Like I give you and I just give you. The charity issue, yeah, like some. Charity givers, they want to remain anonymous to kind of be free of this burden of possible imperative of a reciprocity. Or
I have a question. Based on this maybe history but also experience at the museum, would you be able to say there is specific conditions that can allow generosity to exist?
Well, generosity belongs to ethics, and I hope you agree with me. In a way, for us, this project was as much about definition of a museum as it was a therapy for us at the beginning of working in a new team, because we discussed all those issues. To what extent it remained theory, I don't know. I don't know whether it changed us or it taught us something that we needed to learn in order to work together better, to be generous towards each other. This I don't know, but it was very much meant as a therapy for us. And your question was about
the conditions that allow or that make it easier for generosity to appear, or something like
that. There's a very nice quote here. It's sort of quoting maybe too much from the Belgian philosopher Lucie Rigarin, who says that the rose blossoms without why. So there's no why. So there's no condition. Unconditionality.
Even the conditions of an institution, would you say that?
I know that this is not so constructive in terms of institutional practice or everyday life. Yeah, but that's why maybe this is my ultimate fantasy, that I believe in this fucked up world, you know, of lost people within corridors of disused once operating museum, you know, that I believe in this. I believe because this is the kind of there's a promise of something communal there, you know, that we sort of, when we go beyond this, when we free us from this practicality, from this conditionality, we start operate unconditionally, and then we're gonna create something. We're gonna generate. We will produce something that is beyond this institutional machinery. And maybe this is a pure fantasy. I think that's why this film for me, and every time I see it, I'm kind of smiling to myself, because there is something, there's so much, and maybe I am kind of, you know, mentally, but there are so many things that I can sort of identify myself with, not in a one-dimensional way. But, you know, it can be one-dimensional. It's like, this is the place of magic, you know. One rabbit, second rabbit, everything is around this. This is the place where you articulate everything. Yes, you speak. It's a vehicle for thoughts and for ideas, and it's a stage for you to say what you want to say. And I think this film really accumulates all those roles. It's about the role playing. Yes, we are not who we are. We are not the same. We are totally different, and we don't know about it. And this is what the museum can help you to understand who you are. Yeah, I think on a kind of ontological level, and this is a crucial kind of. It's like someone is whispering to my ear what is the potentiality of a museum? I don't know how you see it from the philosophical kind of
Just say
strictly.
only something a little bit. The generosity and the producing something are different. If you generate something, you have cure for this. And the other things, the generation doesn't have conditions. If you generate something, the generating, the artistic work create the place, create everything around this. You know, if you produce something, you live in this place, and after you do pay for this. But if you generate something from your soul, that means you have cure, and if it completed this artistic thing, after this can be a subject for everybody. You know, in aesthetic of Luigi Parisson, a lot of this genre that come from Genesis. I mean, it's a group, Genesis, or a group, but not this Genesis. Genesis to create something from zero.
Yeah, the beginning,
the
the starting point.
And another thing, sorry, the generating something have a feedback, beautiful feedback, you know. If I generate something, if I generate smiling in the face of somebody, after I'm smiling too, you know, it's a feedback way. It's not only sharing. It's not in a unique way. I'm going to produce something, and after, you know, no, I'm generating myself. Every time that I generate something, I'm generating myself.
I have a question. Can we call this film an artistic work, a piece of art? What do you think?
I didn't understand.
Can we call this film, I don't know,
an artwork?
Yeah.
I think so. And I think it is.
You think it is?
Yeah. You don't?
Well, I'm talking like a common sense person. Well, if you don't know the purpose of the film, it seems like too much surreal, too much, sorry, I'm very sorry for the word, but nonsense, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean it. And
well, I respect your opinion. I'm sure it's an artwork. We can discuss whether it's a good artwork or a bad artwork. It depends upon all of us because we have different views at things. And I sense that you think that it's a bad artwork, or it's not an artwork at all, or it's...
I mean, there are scenes, there are beautiful scenes. I mean, the scene with the doll, it's really beautiful. Yeah. And the scene at the court, that's really beautiful too. The speech was really, I loved it, I enjoyed it. But there were also parts that were, you just don't know how to feel about it. You just...
But isn't it actually what constitutes the highest value of an artwork, that you don't know? It triggers you so much, that it provokes you so much that you don't... If you knew everything, like that would be deadly boring. Like you would leave 10 minutes after if you knew that. If you know, and when I watch, maybe I'm pervert, but I watch it like over and over, and I discover over and over something new, something that I wasn't aware after first, second, third, fourth. I think it's such a pregnant, condensed narrative there that will be, you know, actualized sort of each time you watch it, and because each time your experience is new, is richer because you're alive. You collect your experience as you live, yeah. And I've watched it maybe 4 months ago, and maybe now, you know, my experience, well, I don't know, with the political theater in America at this moment, I guess something is in there from it. And the whole grotesque of leadership, the pathology of power, it's there too. I think it triggers you so much to think and to look for your place wherever you are, that for me it works as an inspiration, you know, as keeping me awake in terms of who I am, who I might be, or who I was, where I belong, or where I come from, or what is this genesis of mine, huh?
Can I make a connection, a bridge maybe, about the discussion of her and your discussion?
Yes.
If I can make a bridge, it's a question. You asked a question about institution, but are you questioning about the people who see the institution? Because we know that nowadays a lot of people don't have the possibility to go to institution like the Museum of Prague or other museum in every country. So the people that are not, I can say, the poor people, the people that don't have the knowledge to go there and to enjoy that. So this is the question. I think that sometimes a gap, sometimes when this institution has become too much intellectual.
No, well, maybe, but I think institutions, they really have a serious problem, and I think that's the main thing, because I guess a certain misunderstanding occurred between what is or what should be an institution, you know, what you expect as a viewer from an institution, and especially if you as a viewer happen to be an artist, or if you are just, you know, someone of another profession who doesn't have this artistic, educational background. So that's why I think, you know, what I said about this after future, after institution, we just have to bomb them, and we have to, you know, like a phoenix from ashes, create something else, like starting from 0 point, from the scratch, and generate this certain new way of communicating. Yeah? Because I think many institutions who desperately try to fulfill the expectations of the general larger audience became passive institutions, yes? So exhibitions are simplistic. Other exhibitions, they have like so much materials to read, so you don't look at an artwork because this label is dominating the artwork itself. I think there is here lack of generosity, you know, from you as an audience coming to the museum to see the product of my work as a curator in a collaboration with the artist as producers. So I think here sometimes I'm kind of getting fed up because of this growing gap. Yeah? That this, I have a feeling very often, I have a feeling that this audience, the so-called audience, but that's also like, who is this audience, will never be satisfied. Yeah? You will never be able to please this audience. Of course, you will never be able to please the media if they express any interest in what you are doing. So I think it's very complex. Therefore, I thought that maybe we should just enter this more abstract. Maybe like, are you coming to the museum to experience something, you know, noble and high, sublime, aesthetic level, or are you going to the museum as if you were going to a school to learn something from the history or from the current reality or something like that? Like, what do you want? Or what should this be? What is more important? Like the certain lesson you get, or something that is also as vague as this film, which is imagination, yeah? Sensitivity, you know? When you read the statute from 1796, those guys, Enlightenment people, and they said, we see that people are not sensitive enough. Yeah? They use the word sensitive. They said that the level of aesthetic sensitivity degrades. What to do with this? Yeah? That was the main concern.
Yeah, but maybe, I mean, our society is just fed up with the images, with everything. And it takes maybe a little bit more, if effort to impress them. I don't know how to explain
Well,
myself.
you see, again, I watched it again for the first time after I had seen Venice Biennale. Yeah? Have you been to Venice Biennale? Yeah. So you know who got the Golden Lion. I think the exhibition in the German Pavilion is very much this direction, artwork as a sort of participatory, performative, or immersive in a way. Do you know what I mean? Have you seen the German Pavilion? Yeah. I think, and this exhibition in the German Pavilion got a Golden Lion, got the highest distinction, which also is very telling that possibly we are kind of leading towards a certain paradigm change, yeah? Which this artwork, which is so specific, announces. And it's specific in a sense that you also cannot grasp it, you cannot define it. You don't know it. It's not a performance. What Anne Inhofe is doing. It's against something that we don't know, we cannot define. And I think that's the most powerful part of it.
Some weeks ago, or in the beginning of July, we had here a small part of the Schermo dell'Arte, the film festival in Florence. And one of the films was with William Kentridge, and it started with the expression, "I make drawings, I do not make sense." And so somehow this idea of the artist that is not called all the time to make sense with what he is doing or what he's saying, but it's so it's called to build a fantasy, to build an imagination, to build a vision, and to offer other possibilities, not just to build a statement that makes sense.
Yeah, but sometimes the ability of somebody to feel is deeply related to their intellect and their intellectual background, if you know what I mean. If I show this movie to my, I don't know, to my grandmother, I'm sure she wouldn't feel anything. And if you remember, I don't know, there's a piece of Camus, where he talks about the genius, the artist, the genius, and he tells that there's the specific ability of genius to touch everybody. I mean, all kind of people and all kind of intellectual backgrounds. And I don't know if this movie, I don't know.
Okay, but may I suggest you to see it from the beginning to the end?
5 times?
Yeah. And then maybe there is a work of a Turkish artist that is showing his grandmother with the book of Andy Warhol, and the title is My Grandmother Likes Pop Art Because It's Colorful. You know? So maybe sometimes.
But are you an artist yourself?
Yeah, I take pictures, I draw, and I don't make sense.
That's good, you know, that's fine. But also if we see some like folk dances, for example, also like archaic, you know, from very primitive. I mean, the people were not so intellectual, but they are so so expressive, and they are so fantastic. And they are, I mean, they are not making sense, but they are somehow full of density, and they are done not by intellectuals, but by normal and poor and primitive people. So somehow we have to trust more our inner ability to have fantasies, and often this is our kind of knowledge that blocks us more than the knowledge that gives us space to have fantasies. And then we know 3 things, and we want to understand the whole world with these 3 things, instead of opening ourselves toward kind of more imaginative way of relating to the world.
Yeah, it's very true. This film is about a fantasy. It's a French movie, anyway, so that's what you can expect. You know, like in 15 minutes there will be a really hardcore orgy scene here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So for those who want to stay and continue, there is something real there, and it's real. With some details which I was very much afraid that people in the International Gallery will be objecting to.
What do you mean it's real? Like,
You will see. You will see.
it's a real.
You will
What time
see.
is now?
It's 9. It's 9 o'clock.
Okay, so I think it's time to thank you very much for this.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me here.
We can continue discussing